Good morning, and thank you for joining us on After GMS. I'm Tracy McCain here with Marissa Tansino. We have meteorologists Ed Matthews and Christian Morgan and details about a weather threat for tomorrow.
Yes, you guys are going to have to keep those phones and those apps close by. Sorry, we're just getting our Facebook Live set up here on our phone so we can join this conversation with you. But Christian and Ed, you guys are keeping a close eye on the weather. And Christian, we'll want that WFMY News 2 app close by because we have some wind and rain we're expecting tonight.
Yeah, and this is a tough situation too because it's not coming through really today or really tomorrow. It's while we're sleeping tonight and through the early portion of tomorrow morning. So let's kind of set the stage here. Here's a live look over downtown Greensboro this morning. And notice if you step outside this morning, how much warmer it is this morning than it has been in the last recent days and recent mornings. And my rule of thumb here is if something doesn't feel right when you step outside in the weather, it's likely not right. And it's usually a signal of things that are to come and changes that are about to happen. And that's what we're going to be experiencing really over the next 24 hours. So as you start out the door this morning, a little more humid than we've been used to. Temperatures a little warmer than we've been used to, upper 40s to near 50 degrees out the door this morning. Of course, on the radar, things are pretty much quiet across the triad. There are some light showers and sprinkles back in the western portion of the state. But zooming out on a wider view, here's the big picture. Here's our big story. Big deal cold front with heavy rain through parts of Missouri, up into Indiana, up into Ohio as well. And on the backside of this front, there's snow in places like Oklahoma and Nebraska. We're going to stay on the warm side of this system today. So we have this strong southeasterly wind that not only warms us up, it adds extra humidity into the atmosphere, and it also helps to aid in some of that cloud production as it brings in moisture off of the Atlantic and out of the Gulf of Mexico. And all ahead of this cold front, those winds are really going to surge, which warms us up into the mid and upper 60s today, just ahead of that cold front. So as it slides by, there's a lot of dynamics for that cold front to tap into. So without a doubt, we're going to have some high wind. We're going to have some rain, some of it quite heavy at times, and we'll also have a low severe thunderstorm risk that we'll need to monitor. That front slides by in the overnight hours. By the time the sun comes up tomorrow morning, it's moving out. We're still windy, but we'll be drying things out and clearing things out as we head into Friday evening and especially into the weekend. So out over the deep south today, there's a pretty significant severe weather risk, especially in places like Mississippi and Alabama. And as we go into the afternoon, there will be some ongoing severe storms and possibly several tornadoes in that part of the country. Now, the severe weather risk is much lower here, but it's still a threat that we need to monitor, just a level 1 out of 5 for those overnight hours. And again, this really covers from today through tomorrow morning at this time. But the time frame for storms would be midnight to 6 or 7 a.m. So here's a closer look at it as we go through in time today. It's just clouds, a stray shower not out of the question, but I think most of us stay dry. Notice where our temperatures are too as we go into the afternoon and into the evening hours, mid upper 60s. So it's warm, it's humid, it's pretty juicy air ahead of that cold front. And then while we're trying to sleep, again, midnight to about 6 or 7 a.m. is when that front rolls through. We'll have some pockets of heavy rain. We'll also have that low severe thunderstorm risk that we'll need to monitor. I don't see it being a big issue, but if any storms get strong or severe, the main concern would be for a damaging wind gust. And even outside of storms, it's going to be windy. Winds will pick up this afternoon, gusting around 25 miles per hour. And then as we get into that overnight time frame, even outside of thunderstorms, winds could gust on the order of 40 to even 50 miles per hour. And that would be enough to bring down some trees or cause some power outages. So that's what we'll be watching very closely. And of course, we'll be keeping you updated all afternoon tonight, today through the nighttime hours and through tomorrow morning. Of course, we will have the latest on the Good Morning Show as well. So I'll just say this, unfortunately, I don't think a lot of us are going to get very much sleep tonight, especially with that wind whipping around. That'll wake you up if you're a light sleeper, or you may be a little bit anxious about it. That might keep you awake too. I will tell you though, it's quick in and out of here by tomorrow afternoon. We've got sunshine, still a bit breezy at times, but winds are calming down. And then we have a nice weekend in store for Saturday and Sunday with sunshine and temperatures in the mid 50s.
All right, Christian, thank you. We're going to chat about weather in just a few moments, but first, the investigation into a deadly plane crash on I-85 now underway. The crash scene unbelievable to see. Officials say a pilot crashed shortly after takeoff, just after 5 o'clock yesterday evening. Yeah, the plane then crashed into the back of a tractor trailer. The pilot died. The driver of that truck suffered just minor injuries, miraculously. WFMY News 2's Denise McMiller is live along I-85 this morning, where that road reopened overnight. Denise.
Yes, although the road is back open. It could be a while before investigators are able to piece together what led to this deadly plane crash, and much of their evidence is still splattered across Interstate 85. The tractor trailer involved in this deadly crash, you can see, is still flipped over on its side. There's also pieces of the plane lying on the shoulder and in the grassy area of the median. So it could be a while before we know exactly what led to this crash. But what we do know is that investigators say that the plane was attempting to take off from the Lexington-Davidson County Airport when it crashed, as you all mentioned, to the back of this tractor trailer. It caught fire and flipped over. We do know that the driver is, as you all mentioned, thankfully safe. They did have minor injuries. The pilot of the airplane, 43-year-old Raymond Ackley of Charlotte, was the only person on board of the plane. He was killed in the crash. We do know that the FAA is looking into what happened with this plane and how this accident actually happened, or what led to this crash. We will bring you updates as we learn more. We will be out here to try and see if we can catch any of them out here investigating this morning.
Hi, Denise, thank you. Today, Governor Roy Cooper will give an update on mask policies in schools. Last week, the state health department changed its guidance for schools, loosening quarantine rules, but still recommending masks. Today's update is set for 3 p.m. and we'll bring you the latest as we get it. On a local level, Guilford County leaders will consider masking rules tonight. Commissioners will take another look at the countywide mask mandate. They can either drop it, extend it, or let it run through March 3rd. Tonight's meeting starts at 5:30, and we'll let you know what they decide there.
Novant Health is easing visitor restrictions as COVID-19 numbers continue to drop. Most patients are now allowed to have an unrestricted number of visitors who are 12 and older. Some limits will be in place to allow for social distancing and waiting areas in patient rooms. Restrictions remain in place for COVID-19 positive patients, as well as patients who are being tested for COVID-19. All right, let's get back to our initial conversation here. We are gearing up for some rain and wind tonight, the most dangerous period of this storm between midnight and 6 a.m. So we want to know your questions about the forecast. You can let us know in the comments, and we'll talk to the guys and make sure they get your questions.
Yeah, Christian and Ed, you have already said this morning, I've heard Christian say it, that this system will be wrapped up before the commute or by the commute tomorrow morning. So hopefully it won't leave too much damage behind as far as trees being down and affecting people's drive tomorrow.
Yeah, this is the kind of wind, we were talking earlier on the Good Morning Show. This is tropical storm force wind, especially once you get above 45 miles per hour. And there could easily be some 45, 50, maybe more than that mile per hour gust, even outside of any thunderstorms that possibly might form overnight. So that, of course, would be enough to bring down trees or cause some power outages. And I'll tell you, a good thing to do today, while it's on your mind, is to maybe tie down loose patio furniture or bring it inside if you can. Same thing with trash cans, either tie them down or bring them in the garage if you have that. If not, they'll probably be down at the neighbors by tomorrow morning. So any loose ends that you have outside, if you can bring them in a garage or you can tie them down, just make sure they're secure. That's a good thing to do, because this wind will undoubtedly toss some of that, across the yard or down the street.
And the different thing that we're looking at here, we've been talking about these strong winds tonight as environmental winds. They're not within a thunderstorm cluster, although we're going to be on the lookout for maybe a few strong or severe storms with some damaging straight line winds. But these environmental winds cover a large geographical area as the cold front approaches. So it's just not like tracking a thunderstorm and you have strong and damaging winds confined to that thunderstorm area. This covers a larger area, so we could see at least somewhat more widespread trees down, power outages, and things like that by early tomorrow morning.
And we've seen the damage that straight line winds, as you mentioned, can cause. Just as powerful as Christian, you said tropical storm force winds. So, I mean, when it's that windy out, then you have the rain and saturated ground. I mean, anything can topple over. So we have to be safe. Joanne wanted to know if it was a good idea if she moved to the bottom of her home or her basement tonight.
You know, that's never a bad idea. You know, we're not expecting, we don't really have a tornado risk with this system. That's extremely low. If any storms were to form, the main concern would be damaging straight line winds. But of course, that can cause as much damage as a tornado, especially if you get one of those 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts to roll through. So if you have a basement, you know, it's always a good idea to stay in the lowest level of your home, or really the most inner room in your home. Away from doors and windows, that way in case the wind were to bring down a tree or were to bring down something out of the yard, if it crashes through, you have the most protection if you're in the basement or if you're in that most inner room in your home. So that's not a bad idea. And of course, I would say keep your devices charged, keep your phones charged, that kind of thing, just in case you lose power overnight. And make sure you have a way to receive warnings too in case those get issued. It's always so much tougher at night because people are trying to sleep and they're not usually paying as much attention to the weather. But if you have your phone, make sure it's on loud, make sure it's on ring. You know, you can go into your settings, whether you have an iPhone or an Android, and turn those alerts on to receive those warnings. You don't have to keep them on all the time, but today is one of those days where I'd turn it on before you went to bed. And of course, downloading the News 2 app and the News 2 Radar app is a good way to stay up to date as well. So if any warnings get issued or anything in that sort of nature, you'll be notified and you can wake up and you can seek shelter or follow along with what's happening.
We've had a few people join the chat since we first started here, so you know, we apologize to you guys. There might be a little repeating. Christian and Ed, I know that you've gone over the timeline, but a few people are still asking when the bad winds will start, when they'll wrap up. What time frame are we looking at?
So this is really an overnight deal. So, you know, I say today is really not a bad day of weather. It's cloudy, it's warm, kind of muggy. It's a bit windy this afternoon, but nothing crazy outside of a normal windy day. Same thing for tomorrow, but notice, I want to show you this graphic right here. There's a pretty significant severe weather risk, or a level 3 out of 5 severe weather risk out across the deep south today. So that covers places like Mississippi and Alabama. And as we go into the afternoon, there will likely be some ongoing severe storms there and possibly some strong tornadoes in that part of the country as well. But as that line of rain and storms advances to the east and moves across the south and into the Carolinas, it will weaken significantly. And so our severe weather risk is just a level 1 out of 5, very low. And it's a possibility that we don't get any thunderstorms at all, but it's something we'll need to watch. But that line starts to approach by about 11 o'clock tonight towards the midnight hour. And then midnight until 6, 7 a.m. is really that time frame where we're paying the closest attention. And even outside of thunderstorms, we're talking about the environmental winds and the chance for high wind gusts. And that really is that time frame of most concern. So midnight to 6 is when I think we could see those 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. That's as the front moves through. And once the front's past us tomorrow, it's still a bit windy, but nothing crazy that we haven't dealt with before. Gusts on the order of 25 to 30 miles per hour for Friday afternoon. But really, this is a overnight system, midnight until 6 a.m. Just kind of keep that in your mind, or maybe, kind of jot that down in your notes for today. That's the time that we need to pay closest attention.
I actually I can't remember which storm it was. I think it was one that came through at the beginning of this year, but I put my porch furniture away. It might have been before that, January 3rd, I think it was, with all that snow. I put all my porch furniture in my storage closet, and I haven't taken it out since then. So it's definitely a good idea. I mean, I'm on the 3rd floor of my apartment, so if one of those chairs goes flying off into a car below, it's not going to be good. So, whether you're in an apartment or a house, it's definitely a good idea when we're talking about these level winds to tie that furniture down, secure it, put it away if you can. And if you guys are just joining us, leave your comments, your questions that you have about this system into tomorrow in the chat, and Ed and Christian have been addressing them all morning.
Yeah, and to Christian's point about anchoring everything down today, now is the time to do it because it's going to be a quiet day before the weather gets active tonight. You take a lawn chair or a trash can, flying through the air at 40, 50 miles per hour, if it, hits a window or something like that, even the side of a car or whatever, it can cause some incredible damage as they fly around like missiles in a very strong wind pattern. But also think about what you're going to need if your power happens to go out. Charge, you got to charge it. You got to charge it before you go to bed. Make sure you're all primed up, because remember, you've already downloaded the WFMY News 2 weather app. You got it on your phone. If you got this thing juiced up and you got plenty of energy, you're able to follow along with us. Even if your power goes out, you may not be able to join us on TV, but you can certainly do it on your phone.
Yeah, and you can stream our newscast from your phone. Sometimes if we're not live on TV, we'll go live on Facebook like we are now. So there are different ways to stay updated, even if you're unfortunately in the dark. We hope that doesn't happen for anybody.
Well, there are some concerns that it could happen, and that could force the closure of schools tomorrow. Also, we have to worry about traffic situations with maybe trees being down or power lines being in the road. And not only that, but the wind itself would make it hard to drive in. So kind of talk about that, Ed, what we could see overnight if you have to go out for any reason in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
You're going to have to probably hold both hands on the wheel.
Oh yeah, I would stay at home. I mean, get done today what you need to get done. We don't experience, tropical storm force winds very often here in the Triad. We get, wind gusts 30, 35 miles per hour. That's kind of the threshold when you start getting small trees to come down on power lines, and you can have some, kind of sporadic power outages. But if winds materialize overnight at 50 miles per hour, there could be more widespread power outages. We've just got to wait and see how the winds unfold. That is, of all the things we're looking at, severe weather, heavy downpours, it is those environmental winds that we're watching, because they will impact a larger geographical area. I'd stay inside. 50-mile-per-hour winds can cause your car to rock, and even a smaller, lighter weight vehicle, could easily turn over. I mean, you couldn't rule out that. You just have to think smart and say, why am I out here? So just don't go out. And what we're looking at, by the time you get ready for the normal commute tomorrow morning, things will be winding down. So, but to have any type of severe weather, whether it be thunderstorms or, the strong environmental winds that we're really concerned about for tonight, it's more difficult to have that in the middle of the night, when it's dark. So again, stay tuned to us. Make sure you got your phone charged up. We stream on our webpage, and of course we'll let you know any watches or warnings that are issued or anything like that. But it'll all be over with by tomorrow morning.
So it will be crucial for you to watch the Good Morning Show starting at 4:30 tomorrow morning, because that's when we'll be in the thick of it. And the radar will be buzzing, looking like that avocado that Dana had mentioned on our feed here. So Christian, talk about that early morning when you first wake up. What are you going to hear? What are you going to experience outside?
Yeah, so if you think back to the beginning of the year, when we had that crazy system, we had tons of rain, tons of wind, and then we transitioned into snow for that first part of the morning, back, in the first few days of 2022. When you wake up tomorrow morning, that's likely what's going to be ongoing. We're going to have some 40 to 50 mile per hour winds, and if it's raining, that rain could be coming down quite heavy at times, and with that wind blowing, you're going to hear that rain pelting against your window. That will, even if the wind itself whipping around and blowing around doesn't wake you up, if you hear that rain pelting your window, it's going to be loud, and that's going to wake you up too. So, when that wind is blowing and the rain's coming down hard, it's going to be coming sideways tomorrow morning. Now, I will say by 6, 7 o'clock, really, I think on the earlier side of that, 6 o'clock, most of our rain is done. Most of our rain is shutting off and kind of tapering off. The wind will still be whipping, but for the most part, our big push of moisture and big push of rain is going to be over by 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. So we just then have to deal with still some strong winds. I think there could easily still be some 40, 50 mile per hour gusts through that morning commute time frame. So keep that in mind. That's strong enough wind where you're driving. It's going to whip you around a little bit on the road. So keep that in mind. And then as we head into Friday afternoon, all of this kind of subsides a bit. We start to see some more sunshine moving back in. Temperatures could actually fall throughout the afternoon. So we're going to stay pretty much stuck upper 50s to near 60 as we go into this evening and into the overnight hours. But once that front gets by us tomorrow morning, we could see temperatures fall down into the 50s as we go throughout the day. Still going to be windy tomorrow afternoon, but more so on the order of just kind of a breezy day of weather with some 25 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts, which usually aren't enough to bring down trees or power lines. But we're going to be dealing with an overnight time frame of several hours where we also have strong winds. And so anything that's kind of broken loose or made weak throughout the overnight hours could possibly still come down throughout the day or maybe into the afternoon. I don't foresee tons of widespread issues. I'll say that, this is not going to be one of those things where everybody's got a down tree or everybody, loses power, but there could be a couple isolated, instances where trees come down and either could take out some cars if you're parked near a tree or on the street, could bring down some power lines and do the same thing. So if you have a garage, I'd say park your car in there. Or if you have a friend's house or a neighbor's house that doesn't have trees surrounding it, you could park your car there, maybe take it over there this evening. Just kind of think about those things as you go throughout the day today, because once you get till 11 o'clock tonight or midnight tonight, it's really going to be too late to do those things. So move those cars away from trees, tie down the patio furniture, bring the trash cans, tie them down or bring them in the garage if you have that, and just kind of keep those things in mind as you go throughout the day today in preparation.
All right, great info.
I'm going to send my husband a note as soon as we get off, like, hey, listen, bring the furniture in.
Please.
We don't want to take any chances. All right, so I feel like we have a good understanding of what we can expect later tonight and tomorrow morning.
Yeah, so after we get through this next system, guys, the weekend looks pretty good. And even next week, I'll take the temps I was seeing. Take us to the 7-day.
Yes, indeed. Looking forward to really a nice weekend as things quieten down through the day on Friday. Still a little windy, but setting the stage for a nice dry weekend, a little cooler. We'll be near 70 today. Now, quiet weather today before the active weather moves in between midnight and about 7 a.m. It moves out Friday afternoon, drying out. Going to be a dry weekend, a little cooler. Mid-50s by day, down into the mid and upper 20s at night over the weekend. And then temperatures move back up as we go through next week. There may be a series of little systems that will track along a frontal boundary to our northwest, hence being in the warmer air sector. But pinpointing the exact time that we're going to see the best chance of rain Monday through Wednesday still in question, but we've got several days to pin that down. We're going to get through tonight in fine fashion, and then we'll focus more on next week.
And one last minute question here. Christian, will you pick me up for work tomorrow? So I don't have to drive in. I see it here on the feed.
I was looking for that.
I must have deleted
who
it. I don't know
that?
I was going to say, sure, Tracy, I'll
I'm
pick
on
you
the
up.
way. Thank you.
Everyone be careful, be safe. Don't go
Yeah.
outside, please, if you don't need to.
I live for adventurous morning travel in horrible condiends.
Welcome to what we do for a living.
I need it at least once a week.
Yes.
No, please.
Thrilling.
All right, thanks so much for joining us on After GMS. Stick with us on our website, WFNYnews2.com. Our weather team will do Facebook Live chats throughout the day and night as well, and those weather alerts on the News 2 app will be coming in throughout the night. So just be safe, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Take care.
See you.